Hello and welcome to our English news coming to you from Canal Algérie. First, the main headlines. The controversial move used by Paris as a mere maneuver to divert the French public opinion from the real domestic problems facing the country. Algeria and European members within the UN Security Council backed the emergency meeting due to be held by this institution to discuss the Zionist decision to reoccupy Gaza Strip. And the intra-African trade fair slated for next September in Algiers is part of a South-South cooperation policy with immense investment opportunities. Welcome again to our news. Following the letter sent by the French president to his prime minister, the Algerian authorities reacted firmly by implementing the principle of reciprocity, knowing that the French move is seen by many analysts as a way to divert the French public opinion from the current problems facing the country. Melissa Kabash explains.
The Algerian-French relations are going through a bumpy road following the letter sent by the French president to his prime minister, François Bayrou, which was faced with a firm reaction from the Algerian side. This French approach, based on multiplying injunctions and ultimatums, was criticized by former French minister Ségolène Royal.
So the political card with Algeria is being played again, as always, when there's a need to create a distraction and make us look elsewhere. A terrible fire in the Odd, and we're discovering the serious negligence behind unfulfilled promises about equipment and the massive cuts to the civil protection budget. We also see a highly risky social situation looming this fall, but nothing is being done to defuse it. Yet, France cannot afford another episode of chaos. Business is already weakened, we won't withstand it, nor will France's image, already badly damaged worldwide. What new distractions will they come up with? On September 10th, when everything is blocked, will they declare war? On whom? It doesn't work anymore.
As for our nationals settled in France, they view the move as a unilateral measure marked by a drift towards stigmatization, seen as targeting a specific community. The move indeed risks deepening mistrust and undermining the long-standing ties between the two countries.
A letter that, once again, tightens the rope on which French diplomacy toward Algeria is losing its balance. French diplomacy today, through the position it has taken, is a diplomacy without direction, without a voice, and I think it's important to remind your audience that only reason and wisdom can restore strength and meaning to the relationship between France and Algeria.
As diplomatic tensions persist, Algeria affirmed its refusal to yield to pressure or any form of blackmail. This episode highlights a clear lack of foresight within the French political elite, whose handling of the issue reveals a disconnect from present-day reality.
To another story now, the UN Security Council is to hold an emergency meeting to discuss the Zionist decision to reoccupy Gaza Strip. The holding of this meeting is backed by Algeria and the European members within the Security Council. Consultations are underway to set the date of the meeting, and Algeria is stressing the necessity to hold it as soon as possible. As mentioned earlier, the Zionist Security Cabinet has unanimously approved a plan for total military control over Gaza, a decision largely denounced by several countries, while others warned against an ethnic cleansing occurring in the occupied territories in broad daylight. Details with Melissa Kabash once again.
The Zionist entity's intentions to reoccupy the Gaza Strip are now official. The Zionist Security Cabinet has anonymously approved a plan for total military control over Gaza. Several capitals have indeed condemned this move as dangerous escalation and a clear violation of international law.
Il semble que le criminel de guerre Netanyahou, dans un cabinet qui a été réuni hier.
It appears that war criminal Netanyahu, in a cabinet meeting held on August the 7th, has decided to continue this war. That reminds us of that of Iraq, Afghanistan, or even in Vietnam. The real objective is clearly not the liberation of hostages, but the elimination of Hamas, full control of the territory, its demilitarization, and ultimately the physical removal of Palestinians under the pretext of restoring security. Massive bombardments have already been launched, resulting in what is now estimated to be between 200,000 and 400,000 dead Palestinians. On a daily basis, Palestinians are being killed with blatant disregard for international law, the laws of war, and their refugee rights, knowing that Gaza is essentially a massive refugee camp driven by his deadly obsession. This dark figure continues his campaign, hoping to destroy all forms of Palestinian resistance. The goal is ethnic cleansing, the total retaking of the Gaza Strip, and the forced displacement of Palestinians.
Avec les résistances palestiniennes. L'objectif, c'est effectivement un nettoyage ethnique, c'est la reprise du contrôle total de la bande de Gaza et déporter les Palestiniens.
Countries including Russia, the UK, Germany, Spain, Australia, China, and even New Zealand have condemned this latest violation of international law and warned of the worsening humanitarian crisis. However, according to international affairs analyst Gamal Abuna, the West's reaction remains restrained as always.
On constate comme toujours que le monde occidental, même s'il...
This criminal has numerous spokespersons spreading propaganda in Western media, a message that is increasingly losing its audience, yet still persistent. After nearly 2 years of war, despite the massacres of Palestinians, the so-called military supremacy of the Zionist army appears exaggerated. Once believed to be untouchable and invincible, that image has now been challenged by Iran, Palestinians, and Lebanese as well.
C'était un pays qui était inattaquable, qui était invincible. L'Iran a démontré le contraire, les Palestiniens aussi, les Libanais de même.
Accused of trampling international law and defying international court rulings, the Zionist war machinery continues to commit war crimes, making food a weapon to starve innocent civilians and further deepen the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip.
In the same context, the Zionist bombardments continued on Friday in the Palestinian enclave, causing several casualties among civilians. Regarding the humanitarian situation, it remains critical since hospitals are almost out of function, being the main target of the Zionist attacks. In another context, Hamas movement announced the torture of Palestinians in the occupiers' jails, a war crime according to the UN conventions. To another story now, Algeria will soon welcome key players from across Africa for the Intra-African Trade Fair, with a focus on boosting trade and deepening continental ties, a clear reflection of Algeria's long-standing commitment to Africa. Melissa Lila Balaman has more details.
Algeria is set to host thousands of business leaders, decision-makers and investors from across Africa in the coming weeks as part of the Intra-African Trade Fair. The event aims to boost trade across the continent and turn the vision behind the African Continental Free Trade Area into concrete action, a goal made even more urgent by today's global challenges.
C'est une édition qui, de mon point de vue,
From my point of view, this is an edition that will truly shake things up, provided that African nations themselves are aware that today, intra-African trade must be driven by Africans and known to Africans above all. Financing, creation and support must take place between African leaders. Algeria has taken the lead in this area, and we can only congratulate it and wish it every success for this major economic event on the continent.
sur ce terrain-là, et nous ne pouvons que l'en féliciter et souhaiter plein succès à cet événement majeur économique sur le continent.
The fair will also feature dedicated spaces for young African entrepreneurs, university students and researchers. Special days will be set aside for countries and organizations from both the state and private sectors to present opportunities in trade, investment and tourism.
L'Algérie aujourd'hui assume.
Today, Algeria is pursuing a more assertive continental policy with investment in trans-Saharan logistics, a more active economic diplomacy, and above all, a clear determination to integrate its companies into inter-African value chains.
Dans les chaînes de valeur interafricaines.
At its core, the event is about building stronger local value chains, cutting back on imports from outside the continent, and moving toward deeper regional integration, all in line with Algeria's historic commitment to Africa and its firm belief in a shared future.
You are still watching Canal Algérie. Coming up in our news. Young athletes representing the national community abroad are in Algiers to represent the Algerian diaspora in the 2025 Athletics Open tournament. Welcome back to our news. The CEO of Sinotrack, Rashid Hashishi, was on a working visit to Adrar province to inspect a series of energy production projects in the fields of Hasilato, Deshira and Sba, which supply the Adrar refinery. Rashid Hashishi hailed the efforts made by the group executives to meet the local needs and honour Algeria's international commitments. Good news now, the Algerian team won 3 medals at the International Youth Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Cooperation or competition held in South Korea. The Medicart, Escort and Smart Zoo projects were awarded gold, silver and bronze medals respectively, highlighting the dynamism of Algeria's emerging technology talents. As part of achieving African integration, Algeria reiterated its commitment to provide technical and technological support for the landlocked developing countries. The statement was made by the State Secretary in charge of National Community Abroad, Soufiane Cheib, in a conference held in Turkmenistan, which wound up on Friday. Algeria's initiative in this respect was highly appreciated by the African participating countries. Amid rising economic and political tensions, Moroccans are taking to the street to denounce the Makhzen's rule and the normalization with the Zionist entity, saying these decisions do not reflect the people's will. Melissa Lila Balaman once again.
Under growing political pressure from the Makhzen, Morocco is facing a fragile situation marked by overlapping crises and a government that remains largely unresponsive to rising public discontent. This political crisis, according to many, has weakened social cohesion and diminished purchasing power. In response, more citizens are taken to the streets, calling for the Makhzen to step down.
We want the Makhzen out of power. We shouldn't be afraid or ashamed to say it. It's the Makhzen that got us into this situation.
Amid deepening economic and social strain, opposition is also mounting against Morocco's normalization of ties with the Zionist entity. Protesters say the decision does not reflect the people's will and reject the idea that the Makhzen can speak for Moroccans on such sensitive matters.
We're here to say we're not behind these decisions. Millions have been calling for a referendum for over a year and a half, but the government ignores them and turns its back on Palestine. I hope we're freed from this regime. May God deliver us.
With the cost of living rising and no clear response from leadership, many say they feel trapped between marginalization and economic hardship in the absence of policies that reflect public demands and uphold citizens' dignity.
Sports now. The national football team drew with South Africa 1-1 as part of the African Nations Championship being jointly held by Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania. Algeria's goal was scored by Bel Husseini. Algeria, which defeated Uganda in the opening game, will take on Guinea next Friday. Still in the realm of sports, 20 young athletes representing the national community abroad are in Algiers to represent the Algerian diaspora in the 2025 Athletics Open tournament. The event, held by the Algerian Athletics Federation, Awasir Association, with coordination of the Paris Grand Basque, is meant to consolidate the existing bonds between our nationals abroad and the motherland country via sports. And with this we come to the end of our news bulletin. Tomorrow, another day. Other news, keep tuning to our channel programs. Bye-bye and take care.